Continuing on Law Weekly today, reactions trailed the announcement on the modalities of the National Conference, following the announcement by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Senator Ayim Pius Ayim.
The National Conference shall advise the government on the legal framework, legal procedures, and options for integrating the decisions and outcomes of the National Conference into the Constitution and laws of the country.
Talking about the laws and the outcomes, we bring you some of the early reactions from some senior legal practitioners.
Finally, we've got the details of what will happen, and I think it's not too bad.
I've come to a tentative conclusion, in spite of my enthusiasm for the need to hold a national conference, that the idea of a national conference is being counterfeited.
Also, the Nigerian Bar Association writes a letter of protest to the Secretary to the federal government to complain about its representation at the national conference. The NBA rejected the one slot allocated to it. Plus, the Southwest Lawyers Forum, Egbe Amofi Oduduwa, appears to have resolved this dispute following an initial crack which split the Egbe into two factions. That is the lineup. I am Shola Sheyeli. Details come up shortly. Let's begin with the much talked about national dialogue, which is now to be known as the National Conference. It was last week Thursday that the SGF announced the modalities for the dialogue. Senator Ayim followed it up with a clarification on Friday on perhaps the main issues which got some lawyers worried. Here is Mr. Secretary addressing the issues of the referendum and the role of the National Assembly.
If the conference make recommendations, then legally it should be followed the way it is permitted within our law. But it's not our business at all. The fact of the matter, as a lawyer, I will say that there is a constitution in place, there is sovereignty in place, there is a parliament in place, there is government in place. And all these are established under a constitution. And so the only provision made by that constitution is for amendment. So even if you want to replace the existing constitution with a new one, the National Assembly still need to meet to put one sentence: we hereby amend this constitution by replacing it with this one. There's no running away from it. And that's the only way legally possible.
Now, before that clarification, some senior lawyers shared with Law Weekly their thoughts on the modalities. One or two were worried about membership, but all of them, like the SGF, touched on the issue of legality.
One of the modalities as released and as highlighted by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, in particular the penultimate modality, is that the conference shall discuss the legal framework and legal procedures and options for integrating the decisions and outcomes of the conference into the constitution and laws of the country, implying very clearly that we're not talking about making a new constitution that is envisaged and envisioned by the people that have been calling for a sovereign national conference. We're not talking about having a new brand constitution, process-led constitution, people participating in that process, subject to a referendum, in a way and manner. Even the Egyptians that are not made success of their democracy have had in recent times. They've held two referenda in recent times. In the last 2 years, the referendum that preceded the Morsi years and the one that may precede the Morsi years. The Al-Assisi years, now that he's been tipped to contest election. I'm talking about the commander of the Egyptian military. Now, that's for the Egyptians. Now, what we're being told with this conference is that we're not going to have that. Nigerian people will not have an opportunity to vote in a referendum on on the outcome of this conference. And worse than that, many, if not all, the delegates will be nominated, in part appointed by the president of the country, who is appointing by the last count almost 67 or 60 or 70 of the members, including the chairman, the vice chairman, and the secretary of the conference. So my view is that, quite unfortunately, Nigerians are not going to have the kind of conference that we think that we're going to have. And this is sad, because the agitation for a sovereign national conference is genuine, is sincere, is patriotic, is a conclusion that was not reached lightly. It's after people have looked at this country, taken a hard look at the country, and they then realize that we're not going anywhere unless we sit down and discuss ourselves. It's not about hurriedly thinking about how to disintegrate Nigeria, and which is also another thing. Inserting the indivisibility of Nigeria in the modality and saying that that's not something to be discussed does not make Nigeria more united. Look, in a typical situation, if you have a marriage, the possibility of the breakup of that marriage does not immediately impel that marriage to hit the rocks. Rather, the realization that a break is possible may even serve as a glue, so that the parties to the marriage will not take each other for granted and all that. So what we still have at the end of the day is that some people, some will still think that they are the guardian angels of the Nigeria nation. They are the ones who are to prescribe how this conference will be conducted. They are the ones who are to tell us the no-go areas. They are the ones who are to tell us how the decisions and outcomes will be integrated in the constitution. So if every Nigerian has agreed, and majority of Nigerians have so agreed, that the constitution that we had before was a schedule to a decree. So amending it does not make it a new constitution. As a matter of fact, the way the people put it in one case, Williams and Akintunde, was that when you amend a law, what you do is like you are patching an old cloth. That doesn't make it a new cloth. Rather, it makes it perhaps a new old clothes.
Well, first and foremost, you have to commend the federal government that after the Ukurumu committee submitted its report, unlike what used to happen in the past, it is not gathering dust. The government swung into action, and they've come out with the next stage following Ukurumu. So I think that is very commendable, looking at the time Ukurumu submitted and the time that this is coming out. What it shows is that some people are working and they are very serious. And I don't think we should be too worried about what the legal modalities are, because what is really happening is that government is saying that they are determined to allow Nigerians to ventilate their thoughts and how they want to restructure our polity. So government is saying we are not all-knowing. We want everybody to be involved. So I think there are about 27 different groups, of which the presidency is involved in only nominating 6 of those groups. So the remaining 21 are comprised of Nigerians of diverse backgrounds and persuasions. So everybody will come to the table and talk. It is when we are talking that we will fashion out how we want to move forward. We will fashion out what becomes of our talk. And you see, what the government has done again is that the government has recognized the position of the National Assembly, because this is a democracy. The people complaining, I would say, and with due respect to them, are suffering from hangover, from military mentality. Democracy is not like that. And I think the government has done well. Let all these people come and talk. During their talk, they will decide that what we are saying here, we are advising government that put it to the National Assembly. The amendment of the Constitution is an ongoing process. It never stops. It never stops. So what we are going to decide in this conference, let us now take it to the National Assembly. The government will present a bill. That this bill we are bringing is not a bill that the Attorney General of the Federation or a few people in government with the President sat down in a small room. No, we are bringing a bill showing the thoughts of Nigerians. Then they will bring it to the National Assembly. Then we will now see the National Assembly also in action. And I'm sure, being patriotic Nigerians, being